Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 680 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing John Ohm. And if you want to hear about German new medicine and growing up in a chiropractic family, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. It's the 680th episode. Really thankful today to have John Ohm on with me. We're going to talk about some really cool things when it comes to his wheelhouse, which is German new medicine. We're going to discuss about how he grew up in a chiropractic household with a chiropractic family, and this big idea of Pathways magazine that his late mother founded for the chiropractic profession based on the relationship with the ICPA. We're going to talk about birth skills and the Webster Technique and how that all came together and birthed this technique called Webster's from Larry Webster and how that helped support the ICPA moving forward. But before we get into John's story and talking about his life within chiropractic, he is now editor of Pathways. So we're going to talk about what it's like to work on these creative projects. And he's on his 83rd edition of this magazine. So I do know that you can become a member and get this resource for free. But if you guys are not members of the ICPA, you can join for $20 a year and get the database of content that they have published in the past and the future releases. So that's the pre-frame to today's show. But before John jumps in and starts talking about all cool things that he was sharing with me before this episode started, I'll let you know our big why. Why do we do what we do? Freedom of speech is the first and most important thing to our show. We believe that it's important to let people's stories be heard. We know what it's like to be shadow banned and censored and traffic throttled. We'd never do that to you. We also believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. This is probably the wheelhouse topic of today's show with John, because he wants to talk about birth skills and healthy families, and that's what the magazine is founded upon. So we're definitely going to talk about that. So if you need help finding resources for chiropractor for you and your family, you need guidance, reach out to John or myself, and we're going to be able to get you to where you need to go. We also believe in philosophy over here, and that's the big idea, but that's also PJ Plummer's last word, and that's protecting the sacred trust. If you want to know more about that, go to our show notes and click on the link, and you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did previously, I guarantee you. Plus, become a member of the ICPA and get onto this database of resources within the Pathways magazine. And lastly, we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but they're removing this context of this languaging out of the colleges. So if you are connected to a chiropractic college or student, please share the show with them so they can understand what chiropractic really is, not what they're teaching them in the schools. I know that it's kind of like a bad topic, but we have to perpetuate the future of chiropractic with philosophy. We do believe in innate intelligence, universal intelligence, and educated intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual, which creates the educated human. And with that, this is episode 680, and this is John Ohm. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, James. This is really an honor and kind of surreal, and I really appreciate the invite. And yeah, I'm right there with you about the philosophy and subluxation-based chiropractic, and that's part of why I do what I do with Pathways, is trying to get people to the level of the chiropractic philosophy. It's a really living philosophy, but it has a foundation to it. that sets the stage for what's coming in the world. And so Pathways to Family Wellness magazine is really a big picture magazine trying to get resources out to family and see beyond the horizon, what is coming, what's the future of healthcare look like, and how do we bring that into the family wellness dynamic in a practical way. So I love to talk about German new medicine specifically and how it connects to the chiropractic philosophy and the chiropractic way of life. New major insights about how the brain and the nervous system work with respect to the organs of the body. And it really situates beautifully right on top of the chiropractic philosophy, which is talking about the nervous system and changes in the tone of the nervous system as the result of subluxations, and vertebral subluxations, how this changes the tone of the nervous system. And then from these changes in the tone, you can begin to understand the phenomenon of health and disease in the organs of the body. German new medicine brings it one level up to the brain, where we identify these new formations, these newly discovered phenomenon of the brain. And I like to call them subluxations in the brain, but they're technically called Hammer herds. Hammer after the man who made the discovery and put the whole science together. And herd is German for lesion. So what you're really discovering in the brain are these concentric spherical lesions that exist. And really in a short, to just lay it all out there, what these lesions in the brain are showing us is something called a biological program of biology, the biological program of adaptation. And what the brain lesion is doing from the brain is it's directing and controlling an organ-specific cellular adaptation. And all of this is in response to something called a biological conflict shock, which is simply an unexpected emotional distress that we didn't see coming. It catches us on the wrong foot or by surprise. And the nature of the problem that we're faced with, you can imagine humans and animals facing all different kinds of conflicts, biological distresses. Well, the nature of the distress will determine which part of the brain gets impacted with this spherical lesion. And then from there, you have an uncorrelated cellular adaptation. And then with this adaptation at the level of the organ, you get this advantage for overcoming that specific biological conflict in life. And these brain imprints, these lesions that impact the brain, the first thing they do is they shift you into sympathicatonia, or a heightened nervous system stress pattern. Lasting sympathicatonia. And really, it's all part of this biological program to help us address and resolve and overcome the distress that took us by surprise. So really, what it's telling us is that the body expresses intelligence, and life expresses intelligence at every level. And the chiropractic philosophy here, which is such a humble philosophy of honoring the intelligence of life, it just creates such a stark contrast to the cultural paradigm we have grown up in, which treats the body as a malignant, full of error. The manifestations in the body, they're just diseases, they're breakdowns of the body. But really what we're understanding here is that even the diseases of the body can be understood as normal, natural, and predictable consequences of these biological programs that shift and shape and change the organs of the body. So really, it's a predictive science that we've actually been gifted with the German new medicine, being able to predict the phenomenon of disease in the body via these brain subluxations that are caused by unexpected biological conflict shocks. Or, in the words of chiropractic, it's thoughts and traumas, the 3 T's that cause subluxation. Well, thoughts and traumas are 2 of them. And that's what we're talking about here. Traumatic experiences that subluxate the brain or cause a lesion in the brain. And from there, you get an adaptation in an organ of the body. And the consequence of this is the disease symptoms, where the disease symptom and the inflammatory symptom in the body is really part of this healing from the program or from the adaptation. After the problem is over, the stress is gone, we've resolved the problem. Now the organism shifts into this healing phase, or the shift in the nervous system to vagatonia or parasympathetics. And that's when you get the onset of the inflammation, which is to reverse that previous cellular adaptation. And so we notice inflammation in the body and we say, oh no, my body's diseased, it's breaking down. And the medical doctors might say, oh, you're malignant. And no, it's a normal, natural, predictable consequence of a biological program that was directed and controlled visibly from the brain as a result of your life and your life experiences. So that inflammatory condition, even bacterial infections, can be predicted causally at any individual level by way of this new science of biology, because what it's showing us is that the bacteria activate in this post-conflict healing phase to return the cells of that organ back to their normal state of function. Okay, so it gets really involved. I mean, it's a huge body of work, and you can get into the nature of each one of these biological programs and what it does to a given organ to create that advantage, that intelligent response to overcome the specific conflict in life, and then what to expect when you resolve that conflict, how the body has to heal and reverse those changes back to normal. And just everything changes with respect to these discoveries. The only thing that really doesn't change are the diseases that were caused by poisoning, injury, or starvation. Those remain in their own category. I call them the classical diseases, where we've known for centuries what causes this poisoning. It's the chemical or the toxic overload causes this poisoning disease-like symptom, right? Those are outside of the category of German new medicine, but within the German new medicine, we're rediscovering really the organic diseases of the body. What are they? Where do they come from? What's their cause? And the way to get to that answer is you have to connect the psyche or the experiences of the individual to the brain and then to the organism through the nervous system. And then you get this full picture understanding. Man, I just, it's such a wonderful time to be alive with this new information, because it really validates what chiropractors have been intuiting and saying from a nervous system based level, with subluxations in the nervous system and everything there. It all fits seamlessly with this new paradigm. So it's really, really exciting. I mean, I could go on and on and on for hours on that topic alone, but.
Well, as you talk about this, it really resonates with me of epigenetics, and it really resonates with me with Bruce Lipton's work. And, you know, like if you take one person that's a twin and you move them across the world and put them into a family and they live a certain way, they're going to find different stressors in their life that cause different predispositions. And if the one twin lives with another person or family that they're born to, they're going to find different stressors in life that gives them predisposed to different things. And really it's our environment. And that's the thing I love about chiropractic, is it can adjust the nervous system and remove the vertebral subluxation and allow the body to adapt to its new environment. And it sounds like this is an add-on to understanding when we remove the vertebral subluxation. You know, I talk to people all the time, John, and they talk to me about like what's going on with them. And I say, hey, do you know why chiropractic works? And they'll be like, no. And I'll say, well, because there's a vertebral column and all these nerves go out to different organs. And do you know why they call it an organ system? I was like, because it's organized. And when there's a misalignment going on in your vertebral column, it's going to cause some type of downstream effect going to these organs, and it's going to make them unorganized. So it makes sense to go see the chiropractor so they can adjust the segment to reorganize your organ system and your nervous system to where you can adapt the way you're supposed to. Yes. And I explain that to people all the time, and they kind of laugh just like you did when I tell them that the organ system is supposed to be organized. And it's true. And I tell them the hardest part to get through to most people is the above the atlas subluxation, which is the one between the temples. And that's also a big laugh for most people, because I tell them that there's misalignments in the spinal column. And then I say, well, the biggest misalignment why people don't understand chiropractic is because they're subluxated between their temples. And
yes.
adds to a little humor.
Yeah, absolutely. I came across that from my father when he was in school. he told me, oh, they were talking about above atlas subluxation, but that meant like, you can't think clearly or you're crazy even, but how funny that there and that you find the wisdom of chiropractic, and then it really proves itself. There really are subluxations in the brain. They're empirical. And yeah, the whole chiropractic premise of improving adaptability, that's really where we are at. The nature of health is about improving adaptability, or in the words of saluted into that research, being able to comprehend, which means predict, as well as manage positive meaning from the experiences of stress in life. Stress in life. If you have a great adaptability because your nervous system is aware and lit up, then you're going to adapt to the stresses of life. If you can't adapt to the stresses of life, the body's going to resort to programs of adaptation to help you adapt. And so that's the picture here. We're getting rid of the immune system theory of defending against invaders as though disease is caused by poisons, which it can be. But the bigger picture here is that we have to understand how the psyche, the brain, and the organ is integrated in this adaptive wisdom and dance of nature. I mean, oh man, it just goes on and on from there.
I appreciate the depth of understanding you have about how people adapt, because that's the part where I'll also meet people and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, well, I believe in chiropractic. And I'm like, great, I do too, but it's not a belief system, it's a healing art. And then I have to reprogram to let them know what a belief system is, and that's the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or something like that. I go, you don't have to believe in chiropractic, it just works. And you just have to lay down, get the adjustment, and whether you believed in it or not, it's still going to have the same results. It's going to work. And back to what you're saying about the lesions on the brain and the spinal cord, that's from the 1910 chiropractic adjuster. That's early D.D. Palmer work. He's chiropractor number one. He was talking about the subluxation was a lesion on the spine. Mm-hmm. So what you're finding today was set up and teed up by chiropractor number one back in the early 1900s. And I think a lot of these chiropractic movements are based on the foundations of DD and BJ and some of these early pioneers that were actually bringing chiropractic to the world. And now we're starting to realize the way that things are adapting and our understanding, those guys were pioneers way before their time.
Oh, absolutely. I am astounded by the work of D.D. Palmer. And really, his visionary genius on so many levels. The nuance here, he says it's the shift in the tone of the nervous system that we have to focus on, not necessarily the impingement on a nerve causing a destruction in an organ. It's the shift in the tone, and it's an intelligent adaptation. Okay, it's not a mechanical dysfunction. But he laid the foundation here for such a big paradigm. And then German medicine, quite independent of chiropractic, discovered this lesion in the brain. Dr. Hammer, through his own story, and then he put the pieces together from a whole nother picture, a whole nother field, right? The field of medicine and oncology, really. And then you discover that, oh my God, these two worlds just come right in alignment, one on top of the other. Lesions in the brain, lesions along the spinal cord, changes in the tone of the nervous system, as well as changes in the organs of the body. And everything can be explained from this new paradigm. Oh,
well, I was listening to a buddy of mine today that made a video about understanding the chiropractic exam. And his name's Dr. Eddie Weller. And I was listening to a video he produced today that was talking about how people understand the adaptability of the nervous system. And he's like, it's not only bone. It's not only nervous system. He goes, actually, what he didn't say that I want to add is I believe that the bone is a direct correlation inside the nervous system. And it is a different type of matter, but it is directly linked to the neurology. And that's why when the bone is out, the nervous system's stressed. And when the connection of those two bodies or two systems get shifted in a negative way, somebody goes to pain response. But when somebody goes to shift to the opposite direction, we get enlightenment, we get health, we get vitality, we get better tone. So understanding that the bones and the nervous systems are in the same field, that's what most people don't know how to discuss. And I think that that's what we're keying in with today is the German new medicine is a layer on top of the chiropractic science, philosophy, and art. And when you understand that they live in the same ecosystem, that the adaptability isn't always about pain response, it's about vitality response. And Billy DeMoss would always teach me, it's not about the seed, it's the soil. And it's like terrain theory. It's if we want to change the adaptability of the individual, we have to change the adaptability of what we put into it. And if we change what we put into it, then the body has better tone and has better vitality. And those are huge words when it comes to chiropractic and practicing this type of lifestyle that you and I both know.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could talk. I mean, what I've come to appreciate is how the subluxation can be seen of as, and this is talking about the bone vertebral misalignment, quote unquote, can be seen of as a really reflecting the bigger life that the individual is living. In other words, the vertebral misalignment or subluxation is reflecting stresses in their life experiences. Okay, and that's definitely the case when you go to German new medicine and these brain formations, because each brain formation or Hammerherd corresponds to a specific kind of life experience of distress. Okay, it's very categorical in this way, but the whole nervous system and the bone is mirroring the story. Okay, the biography of the individual, the story, the lived experiences. And so you can assess the spine. I'm sure D.D. Palmer and B.J. Palmer knew this intuitively and practiced this outwardly by assessing subluxation spine. I know your life. I know who you are. Okay, well, that's what's coming to a scientific age with these subluxations or lesions in the brain. You get a clearer picture. You don't even have to be an intuitive master to detect it in the nervous system. It's there in the brain, and it's a science of causality. Oh, I see this in the brain. I know that you experienced a specific kind of distress that impacts that part of the brain. And then you can get even a little deeper by understanding that with this shift in the tone to sympathetic atonia with such a distress, that's going to travel down the spine through a certain pathway to reach the organ to cause the organ level adaptation. And now I wonder if that surge of sympathetic atonia requires a vertebral subluxation to enhance the communication between the two. Who knows? This is such a fascinating conversation.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Peach State Payments, Recover, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue BA, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, Pure Chiro Notes, 5-Star Forge, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, and the IFCO. You can benefit from our full list of sponsors by visiting the sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Well, I think a lot of people don't really understand the depth of what we're talking about, but most of this stuff happens in utero, and it happens at conception, and it happens in the environment that we're housed in for 9 months. And a lot of these things that we're pre-programmed with come from the womb into the conception era of life, and we never go down that path. And it's really hard for people to understand that a lot of the thoughts, traumas, and toxins happen at conception, and it happens through in utero to pregnancy. And I really believe, back to another chiropractic standard of philosophy, the body needs nothing extra in it. It simply needs no interference. So when we clear the interference, the body self-heals and self-regulates and adapts. And that is probably the most beautiful thing about chiropractic, is when the body is in an adaptive state, it produces, the big word in the medical world, homeostasis, which is the balance of health. It's not a chiropractic word, but it produces that. And if we knew how much we had to create a healthier environment for the mother and the pregnancy along that journey, we could create healthier outcomes. And the kids would grow into this lifestyle with no interference, and they would adapt a lot easier. and they wouldn't need these interventions in this medical model where we strap on beepers and pulsators and pokes and jabs and things to say that this person's healthy. Well, I think a lot of this is if we really paid attention to those early stages of that 9 months and that conception, we could really challenge so much of what's done in a medical profession today to make healthier pregnancies and healthier children.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. You know, as you talk about that, I think of the terminology in German medicine, which is, it's called a biological program of adaptation. Well, program. So we're talking about programming in the brain. And when you understand that, then you realize there's a blueprint that nature has provided for our organism to thrive. And when we honor that natural intelligence and that blueprint, that's what breeds health. Okay. If you don't honor that natural blueprint, so it's a question of figuring out what is the natural intelligent blueprint for a given organism to thrive in. And it's different by by species and by individuals, because we're programmed in a way by our ancestry, by our parents, for sure, not just by the species level. So nature has provided a template for each of us, and it's about understanding that. That's why it's called the healing knowledge, Germanisch Heilkunde, healing knowledge. It's a knowledge of how nature's intelligence is around us all the time. And I don't know if my internet's cutting out, but that's the biggest picture here.
You're here. You're just a little choppy. I think we should transition into Pathways Magazine. I know we talked a lot about German New Medicine. We talked a lot about philosophy, which I think are vital to what we're discussing today. But let's go into Pathways and talk about your position. I know that since 2019, you've taken over as the editor of Pathways, and talk a little bit about what it means for you to be a part of that project.
Oh man, it's such an honor. It's also a huge responsibility. I understand Pathways within the context of the ICPA and the chiropractic profession at large, and we're sort of the public-facing publication of the ICPA as a resource for parents and families to get information that's going to help them navigate their journey through life. It's a major. It's very important. I understand the importance of this magazine, and my mom really saw a vision with Pathways to reach the whole world, right, through the chiropractic profession and the philosophy of chiropractic. It's really one of the ways to get the philosophy of chiropractic into families' lives so that they can live a greater expression of themselves. So Pathways is an amazing thing to be a part of, a publication to be a part of, and to be a part of the ICPA. I mean, it really is. Pathways exists because the ICPA and the membership is here. It has potential to grow and grow.
Well, you opened up with me before we went live on the interview. You told me that Pathways started out as a newsletter that your mom was writing.
Yeah, really humble origins. It was just an ICPA newsletter, and talking about the early ICPA, life, 2000 on. And a few years into that newsletter, chiropractors were like, "Wow, we really love this newsletter. Our patients love it. We leave it out on our table, and our patients are going through it, being like, wow, what interesting information here. Why don't you think about growing the newsletter a few more pages?" So I went a few more pages, and then it started to turn into a picture newsletter. Then it quickly turned into, well, why don't we just turn it into a magazine and make it full color and send these out to our members? And that's how it started, right? It's because parents grabbed a hold of this newsletter and said, wow, this is really valuable information. And that's the truth. Chiropractors have such valuable information for parents, and it's all in their head, and they have to give it to each person. But what if there's an avenue to get it to everybody? And that's really the kind of the spirit of Pathways. Is there's this whole philosophy here, and it governs or it helps us govern our own lives in a new way. So let's get that out to the families as much as we can. And so it's an awesome story. And growing up in the household with my mom during those early years with the ICPA are formative memories that I'll always cherish. Packing envelopes, to send to our, 600 members that we had at the time. And it's such a joy. And to see her passion as the executive director of the ICPA and bringing it to where it is today. I mean, it's such a tender and humble part of my life, really, to see that and to have grown up in that.
Well, it was a very beautiful opportunity to meet you at Mile High. It was so much serendipity involved in that. And I just thought that there was just like so much more to it. And then I started asking you questions about like the magazine, and I started asking you about the connections with your mom. And I just started to realize that there's this powerful movement about healthy families and healthy pregnancies and disseminating information to people that need it the most and being humble about that, like you say. But it's all about how we package it. And it's not just packing those 600 envelopes. It's about how do we take this constructive information that's necessary to people and give it to them in a way that they can utilize it and it stays fresh. And I think it's really cool that they have somebody as yourself at your age as the editor, bringing on great storylines and great themes and contributing writers. And you find where there's a need for content and you fill the gap. And similar to what we did over here with Hustle, I saw that there was a big void for unifying the profession with a single message and inviting everybody in to be contributors. And I think that that's an important thing as what we do on the digital platform with these stories. I think it's also a really cool thing to see what you're doing on the legacy of creating the magazine. And now, talking to you today, you have the digital database with new releases that people can be a part of for $20 a year, which is a no-brainer to me. So if you guys are watching this, you want to get tapped into the Pathways database of episodes or magazines. There are 83 of them. Go to the Pathways website and I guess become a member or join the ICPA and learn about how to contribute to your community with chiropractic for the full family, focusing on prenatal, postnatal, and healthy births. But I know that we're coming up on the edge of our time, but I did want to talk to you about birth skills a little bit because I know that's something that sets you on fire. And I do want to talk a little bit about Larry Webster and that legacy. So let's dive right into that third topic and talk about birth skills and Larry Webster and the ICPA.
Yeah, absolutely. Birth skills came onto my radar just recently in 2021. And it took me a little bit of time to realize how how it really defines what the Webster Technique is in a way. So birth skills, there's a whole story here. You remember the Lamaze, Bradley, Grantley, Dick Reed era of the 60s and early 70s, where there was some, these skills, okay? And they were not very adaptable. For a lot of women, they tried these skills and they said, oh, it doesn't really work. But there was a lot about those skills that really did work, okay? And that has been lost to history. And what they really were able to do was help families come together and do this activity of birth and cope and manage and derive positive meaning from the experience. Factors that aren't easily measured by just simply looking at birth outcomes, okay? And we're talking about primitive skills when they were first being introduced, that even the concept of learning skills to do this activity of birth was a new thing back then. Well, it's evolved since then, but kind of under the radar and under the conversation. The conversation has been majoritively about the choices you can make leading up to birth and honoring the normal physiology of birth, because birth is a normal physiological process of the body. So that is now how I understand one half of the birth conversation. One half of it is understanding that it's a normal physiological process of the body, trusting it, understanding it, and supporting it is that whole field. And then there's the other half in my mind, and that's what do we consciously do to integrate with the natural, normal physiology of birth and even enhance it and support it and that's what we call skills. I mean, skills to be able to do something. All right. And what we're doing here is we're learning how to and harness the intelligence of birth. Well, the Webster Technique comes out in the 80s, right? It's early called the breech turning technique, but my mom and others quickly realized that's not the right nomenclature. It's much bigger than assessing the presentation of a baby in utero, okay? It's about the neurophysiology and the biomechanics of the mother's body leading up to, during pregnancy, and through birth, okay? And really what you understand when you include this other half of the birth conversation, which is the birth skills and the activity of this physiological process that we're going to be consciously engaged in, you realize that the Webster Technique is really one of the foremost pivotal skill sets that we can apply to preparing for birth. It's balancing the pelvis, getting our attention aware of the pelvis, the biomechanics of the pelvis, how the baby comes through the pelvis, right? As well as enhancing neurophysiology so that we're thinking clearer, our nervous systems are working better, the hormones are being produced, right? And so what we're seeing is a dawning of a new chapter in the childbirth conversation and the childbirth sphere. And that is the activity of birth. And Webster sits right at the middle of that. So to honor that legacy, I've gone ahead and really tried to explore the skills-based methods of childbirth and integrate that into the conversation and see where that can bring us. And I really believe that brings us to the next level.
Well, what it translates to me, John, is that everybody's involved. It's not just send the mother to the hospital and she's by herself delivering a baby. It's the whole family's involved with understanding how we're going to have a healthy pregnancy. And it brings everybody to the table and contributes to the energy of bringing a new life into the world.
Thank you. Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the foremost reasons why I support and I get this information out there, because fathers no longer have to be in the corner saying, I didn't know what to do to help and she hates me now. You don't have to be ignorant of the situation. You can come together on the premise of learning skills. I know it's a clunky word, but it's really learning how the body works in pregnancy and birth. And when you come together upon that premise, you work as a team, and now you come through the process as a team. And now you guys are just on a whole nother level of well-being together. Like, I can do this. We can do this. It's all about empowering the family through the birth process because they came together and did it together. And then that translates into parenting and healthcare choices. We got this. Okay. That's the premise here.
And you know what I'll tie that up in the presence is the presence. And when people are involved in the co-op of a birth, it brings a new congratulatory experience for everyone involved, and everybody can be participating in the support, the acknowledgement, the truth, the future. It basically brings the family unit together stronger to where everybody is more supportive and understanding, and it's a group thing. And I think that that's where we've really disconnected our modern culture, why there is so much disconnect in families and with supporting the kids, is because people aren't connected to each other through bringing new life into the world. There's such a disconnect. There's such a mechanistic approach to having a new life brought into the world that we're missing how important it is for people to co-op a birth.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very disempowered where the history of birth leading up to where we are now. And now it's about empowerment. And I like to use the term the salutogenic birth experience. Okay. We're aiming towards the salutogenic birth experience, where salutogenesis is about coping, managing, and deriving positive meaning and coherence amid the stresses of life. Okay, just like we were talking about with the German New Medicine. Well, here in birth, salutogenesis is about coping, managing, staying on top of, deriving positive meaning from that experience so that we can achieve a salutogenic birth experience. And that's bigger than a natural birth outcome. What I've found is that when you aim for this experience of coherence together and ability and newfound empowerment. Now the outcome is less important, and it's about our ability to come together and meet life's stresses and challenges. Oh my God, that's the aim. That's what we want to achieve, because when you can overcome odds and difficulties together, you're better for it. Okay. And so that's a really beautiful thing that comes out of this conversation and the Webster approach to birth. It's a pragmatic and applicable for all births, because we want to get to that salutogenic birth experience.
Well, John, you've been a great guest today. I could probably talk to you for 3 straight hours, but I know our time is coming to the end for this interview process. Thank you for being so open, being so kind, being so generous with your knowledge. I know a lot of people are going to benefit from this episode. At this juncture, I like to ask people if there was any web resources we can give to people. Where would we send people to for the Pathways magazine and the ICPA?
Yeah, ICPA4kids.com. If you're a chiropractor and you want to get involved with the ICPA and working with families, because it's pediatrics and pregnancy, right? Go to ICPA4kids.com. If you're out there looking for a Webster chiropractor, you can find a Webster chiropractor on that website as well. And then if you want to subscribe to Pathways, either a physical printed copy or a digital subscription, the digital is for $20 a year. Okay. You go to pathways-to-familywellness.com, and you'll find already a host of resources on that website, including birth skills, methods, and courses on that website. So if you're interested in exploring birth courses from this salutogenic framework, or this empowering from the experience via skills and activities that you can do, we host those as well. So those are the websites to learn more, for sure. And we have so much information about the topics we covered today on Pathways as well.
Well, once again, if you guys want to learn more about what John is working on with his team over there at Pathways, go to pathway-to-familywellness.com to get into the magazine. If you guys want to learn more about the group with the ICPA, go to ICPA4kids.com and find yourselves a Webster chiropractor that can help support your family with all medical decisions moving forward. John, thank you so much for being on with us today. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to add on at the end of this conversation today? We talked about the vision of where is chiropractic going to be in 20 years. And, chiropractic is going to be awesome in 20 years. That's all I have to say. The chiropractic profession, you guys rock. You guys are the nucleus of a new world, of a new future. And it's right here now. So thank you. I always love to say this. Thank you for who you are and what you do so very much. So thank you. Well, I appreciate the kind words, and I'm a bit grittier towards the end, and I tell everybody, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. And John, have a great day out there, and thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.